Hi there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. In this video, I'm putting together my Project Life spread for the week of August 9th through August 11th, 2024. I realize that's shorter than a week, but these were the days that I was visiting Budapest, Hungary this past summer. For this spread, I'm using the Vicki Boutin Where to Next collection. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, so this is the week that I was in Budapest, which clearly is not a week, it's only 3 days. But I wanted to document it as its own spread. So I have my photos here. I'm just going to move that. I printed out 3 4x6 photos to fit on this side. This is the page protector I had. And because this one has so many 4x6 photos, I decided to do all 3x4s on this side so I could fit more in here. So let's see. I have a couple I just have to cover up here. There we go. And then I have one more. This is from the baths. Maybe I'll put this one like over here because this one is a good one to put over here because the colors are different, although that is from the same place. Maybe I'll put that one. And put this in the middle to break up the colors. So after doing this, I realized my photos are very blue. So I'm going to keep that in mind when deciding what cards and things I want to use. So I primarily want to use this Where to Next collection from Vicki Boutin. I only brought the 12x12 papers and these puffy stickers. So I'm probably going to pull some stuff from my stash because there's no Project Life cards in here. And the cover actually fell off while I was looking through it. But what I'm gonna do is probably go through here, pick out some to fill in some of these pockets, and probably go through my stash as well and see if there's any like travel related cards I want to include. And my thought for embellishing is I'm gonna put Budapest on here somehow. There was stamping or alphas or something like that, and add a little bit of journaling, and that's pretty much it. I probably will do some sort of embellishing on the photos. But I don't think I'm going to do most of this talking. I'm going to do it with a voiceover so that I can go through the paper slowly and kind of crop it down as I'm going rather than having to talk through it. So I'm going to go ahead and put you guys on fast forward and start looking through this paper pad. Okay, so the first thing I did was when I opened this up, I found that there was the pad or the page that had all of the 3x4 cards on it. So even though I know I'm not going to use all of these on my spread, I decided to just crop them all down so that I can put them in my collection in my stash with my Project Life cards rather than with my pattern paper because I'm more likely to use them in that fashion. There are a few of these that I knew off the top did not match the spread, but a couple of them I really did like. I really loved that one with the camera on it, and I also really loved some of the journaling cards. So there's the one that says today and the one that says my personal faves, and both of those I'm going to end up using for the bulk of my journaling. If you watched my earlier spreads, my last few Project Life spreads were also travel spreads. And in the first one, when I did Berlin, I did some typed journaling to include my full itinerary of everything we did. When I did the last spread, which was Prague and Vienna, I used a story kit, the Senses story kit, to kind of talk about what happened there from those unique perspectives. In this spread, I'm instead going to break my journaling into really 2 chunks. One is this my personal faves card. You can see it there, that orange-ish one. And the other is that today card. On the personal faves, I'm just going to make a bullet point list of everything we did while in Budapest. I had to skip a few things, but it was pretty much everything. So it's just like factual list. And the today card I used to journal more about my feelings. I'll talk about that more when I'm working on the journaling. For now, I went back to the paper pad and I'm just flipping through, looking at all the beautiful designs and pulling out ones that I thought would work with this spread. Some of these papers are huge patterns that work only in a larger scale, and so getting the 12x12 paper pad really kind of lends itself to doing those 12x12 projects or those larger projects, which I do some of, and I will likely use some of these papers in that way. But right now I'm working on pocket pages, so I'm really only pulling out ones where the colors and the themes work both in pocket pages and with my spread. I really, really loved that blue one that I just pulled out. You'll see that in a little bit once I start cropping it down. I also pulled out one that had all of those cut apart tags on it, and I ended up not using it in the spread, but I did pull it out with the thought that I might want to cut some of them out. Here's that blue one that I said I love. I think this one works perfectly with this spread. I'm going to use this to create my title card. I really, really loved the blue pattern and the tile, and it looks very kind of like Mediterranean, which Budapest is very much Mediterranean. They are not on the actual Mediterranean Sea, but they are close to that region of the world that a lot of their like food and their climate and everything is influenced in that way. So I really liked that Mediterranean look. And that's also why I pulled out the lemons, which I do end up using. There's that lemon paper. I'm going to crop this one down also to create a 3x4 card, which I will use in a bit to add a little bit of additional journaling. I'm just cropping everything down at this point during my process to put together a spread, whether it's travel or not. I like to have a basic idea of what's going to be in each pocket before I start putting things together. That doesn't mean I'm not going to move things around or, change my mind, but I just like having that initial layout done or like base for each pocket to get an overall feel for how the spread is going to look. I feel like, especially when I first started Project Life, a lot of people treated Project Life spreads as if each pocket was its own individual scrapbook layout, but it really isn't. And I feel like it works better when you look at the spread as a whole. And I think that creating a base for each pocket before you really start putting it together helps you kind of visualize it as a whole. So I ended up cropping a couple of the other pattern papers there because I really liked them, and I moved that camera one off to the side because I didn't have a pocket left for it, but I do end up using it. What I decided to do is cut it out. You're seeing I'm just fussy cutting it out. I'm going to cut off the strap because I really just want the camera icon, and I'm going to create my own filler pocket. Now, I definitely could have used it as is and used it as a filler card, but I decided to modify it for a couple of reasons. First, I just wanted it to be more personalized. Once I crop it down and layer it to create my own pocket card, it becomes more unique and something that doesn't really show up in anyone else's album. Second, I really just liked the pattern papers that I picked out and didn't have an extra spot. So I had that star one and the one with the words on it. And if I was going to leave the camera intact on its original card, I would have had to cut one of those out. So I decided to crop it down and layer it on top of that star paper. And I'm going to go back to that in a little bit. For now, I decided to work through selecting some embellishments from my stash. So what I did was I went to my chipboard organization, which is in a drawer directly beneath my craft area or my desk here where I'm working. And I have all of my chipboards sorted in various categories. I do have a full video available on my YouTube channel explaining how I organize my chipboard. So if you're interested in that, I will link it in the description box below. I pulled out the tray for my travel chipboard, and I'm just going through all of them. To make this easier on myself, I dumped them all out and I'm just sorting through them. And I realized a lot of them had these kind of like label style to them, the strips. There were a lot of like word phrase strip ones that were travel related and ended up in this travel set here or box or whatever, all my travel chipboard that I had organized here. So I decided to pull out a lot of those ones that looked like word strips to see if I could come up with a few collections of them that actually kind of made sense with this spread. I also pulled out a few larger ones that were sort of word strips that I thought could be a base for some of those other ones. Now I'm moving on to working on this journaling card. I pulled over these alpha stickers that were from Kelly Perky Shop. They're just like a plain black alpha sticker. One of my absolute favorites. I stocked up on them as much as I could before her shop went out of business, and I'm going to be so disappointed when I run out. But for now, I have enough sheets that I have all of the letters. So I don't have to worry about running out of any specific letter. You can see I'm flipping through sheets because I need to use like
A's from a later sheet than some of the other letters because I've used up a lot of the A's. But what I'm doing is I'm writing out Budapest, and I am putting it on the edge of just this plastic wrapper from something in my stash. I just pulled over a sticker sheet from my stash, and I'm just putting them on the edge of the plastic there because this way I can get a feel for how much space this is going to take up before I put it on my card. I could have just started putting it on my card either from the left or the right to make sure I had enough space, but this way I'm able to kind of center it in that gap. Budapest does kind of fit a little tight there, which is why I wanted to do that, because I needed to know kind of how much on each edge it needed to overlap, and I wasn't sure if I was going to have that T like kind of go off the card and cut it off, but it ended up working out perfectly fine just as is. Okay, so I'm looking off screen at my Hobonichi cousin because I brought my Hobonichi cousin with me to Europe, and during my vacation, I kept track of everything that we did, both on my weekly and daily pages. My daily pages were more of a journal reflection, but my weekly pages, which I do whether I'm traveling or not, include a kind of timeline of everything that happened that day, just pretty much factual. Occasionally I'll put like some little like feelings in there, you know, like if I'm tired or something like that. But mostly it's just like, this is what we did. So for travel, I just kind of listed out all of the sites we went to see, where we ate, when we did it, and kind of just like a basic overview. So I'm using that as reference while I'm working on this card. You can see I made a few mistakes, which is why I have my white out. And one reason why I love when my journal cards are white, because I make a ton of mistakes and need to write them out pretty frequently. So I'm just making a list of everything we did. We ended up going more places than fit on here, so I did narrow it down towards the end and just try to make sure that the big ones got included. But this was just kind of my simplified way to do an overview of what happened in Budapest. I, of course, plan to include way more journaling about this city in my travel album, which I will do hopefully this fall. I will definitely share it with you guys here on YouTube when I get around to working on it, but I'm not sure when I'm going to do that. At this point, I'm just getting these stories in my Project Life album so I can move on with this album. Working on this title card now, I'm just using my rolling date stamp in a label that's from Ali Edwards to create a title card out of this cropped piece of pattern paper. And then I'm going to use a geotag chipboard piece. You can see it right there on the screen there. I'm grabbing it to adhere it on here. The backing on that wasn't adhesive, or it like didn't work right. So I just used some rolling adhesive to adhere that down and just decided to call this good. For travel spreads, when I'm doing a title card, I like to include the name of where I went, but instead of putting that on here, I ended up putting it on this title card. I forgot to mention I used one of the puffy stickers inside that geotag that was from the collection just to kind of tie everything together. So again, I'm using my technique of putting my alpha stickers on the edge of something else so I can lay them down on my photo to be very centered in the picture, because otherwise, I mean, you can work from the middle out and sometimes that works, but sometimes letters are not all the same width depending on the font. Sometimes certain letters are going to be wider than others. So this way you can truly center it and make sure that it fits and you're not going to run out of space before you put it down. I'm using some puffy alphas from my stash. I believe they are from Freckled Fawn, but I'm not entirely sure. But they're just some nice puffy black letters to write Budapest on top of that photo. That photo is from the Fisherman's Bastion, which was probably my favorite thing to see there. Those top photos on the left there, the one that has Budapest on it, and then the two below that are from the Fisherman's Bastion. Budapest is a super, super beautiful city, and I will have a travel and document with me about Budapest coming. I am working on those in the same order that I visited the cities, which is the same order I'm doing for my Project Life spreads, and to share photos on Instagram. And they're all they're kind of on different timelines, but I will eventually have a travel and document with me from Budapest, so I will share more about my favorite sites there. But this is such a beautiful city, and you can really see that in my photos. I think I got some good ones. The Fisherman's Bastion was definitely my favorite, so beautiful. And then that church and the top left pocket of the right side is also right by the Fisherman's Bastion. And then their Parliament building is that photo on the bottom of the left-hand side. And the one that has the like lime green sticky note is also the Parliament building. It's just a photo of us in front of it. I am now moving on to work on this card that has this camera on it. I'm going to kind of put together something on here. So what I decided to do was layer some stuff behind the camera. So I wanted the camera to be centered on this card with the star paper. I wanted to use the star paper because I really liked it, and I wanted to use the camera because I really liked it, but it seemed too busy. So I felt like it needed something to help that camera pop. So I trimmed a blue paper from the kit. It's like the back of the lemon paper, and it just looks plain dark blue when I'm editing this, but maybe depending on the size of your screen, you can see that there's a little bit of like texture in the pattern. And then I'm just using white washi tape, which is one of my favorite basic supplies, to create just like some white strips here. It's almost the same effect you get as using like vellum, maybe a little less transparent, but I really like it as a good way to kind of layer things on your page and give it kind of like a little bit of a border that will help this blue strip pop from that background. So you can see now that it has that white strip between the blue and the stars, that it's just less busy looking, but the colors and everything still coordinate. So what I'm going to do, I'm just trimming everything down, is just adhere that camera right on top of this stripe and call that a good filler card. Actually, what I end up doing, so I'm just adhering it down, is this could be good just like that, but I wanted to pull in one of these puffy stickers because they're just so cute. So I took one of the hearts and added it in the center of that camera and just put it back on my spread. Now I'm trying to decide what to do with those other filler cards. I still have a couple of the pattern cards, the words one and the lemons, and I need to do something with them. But before I do that, I'm going to work on my chipboard pieces. You can see in this spread, I'm jumping around a lot. And I tend to do that when I'm not entirely sure what to do with a specific pocket. I will just move on and come back to it. So this photo here is of the Hungarian baths, and it's like the natural hot spring. They're just very, very good for your body, and it was a lot of fun. We went there one morning and soaked for a bit, and what I'm doing is just layering a few of the chipboard pieces on top of it to create a little like stack of 3 words. Here's a picture of some of our food. The food in Budapest was amazing. It's pretty like Mediterranean food, is kind of similar to Greek food, but with a little bit more meat. So it was good, and it was a very like mix of all of the different types of food in the region. I felt like it had like a lot of the meat that you get in like Austrian food and Czech food that was kind of nearby, but you also have that Greek and Mediterranean flair with the hummus and the fresh vegetables. So it was just very, very delicious. I considered putting one on that picture of Parliament, but I decided that the word phrase strips were too, like 3 of them stacked on top of each other wouldn't really work. So I end up going back to that later. Now I'm going to work on this lemon card. So I didn't want so many just filler cards that didn't have photos or journaling on them, but I didn't have a ton of additional journaling I wanted to include. So what I decided to do is just layer a few label stickers on here to create like small journaling spots. And I'm journaling specifically about the food. So everything I pretty much just said to you guys, I'm going to journal on these labels. I was just testing my pen on the edge of that sticker sheet. When you're using label stickers or anything that you want to write on, it's always good to test your pen first and make sure it works. I was pretty sure that my pen worked on these labels because I've been using this type of label from Ellie Edwards for a long time, and I've been using this pen for a long time, but I still wanted to test it out just to make sure. So I'm doing my journaling here, and I don't think I talked about it when I worked on that today card, but that's where I have the rest of my journaling, which was just more of like a feels card. So I had, the bullet point list, which were the pure facts of what we did. And then the today card was my feelings and our overall feelings on Budapest and how much we enjoyed it and liked the city and just, the overall feel of this vacation. We both felt like this was a city we would want to go back to. We could even see staying here for an extended period of time. Unlike any of the other ones that we visited, although we liked them, they were very good like vacation destinations. This was one where I could see staying here, all summer or something like that. So I wrote about that, and then I'm journaling here about the food. And I feel like that covers enough journaling for this spread. I do think it's a little bit funny that this spread has the least amount of journaling so far of my travel spreads, even though this was my favorite city. It was both of our favorite city, but I think that that is fine because I'm going to document this elsewhere. And I do have that reflective journaling in my journal that I did while we were traveling. So I'm not going to forget a lot of the ways I felt and everything at that moment in time. I'm putting the rest of these chipboard pieces away, and the spread is almost done. What I end up doing is just pulling out some additional chipboard pieces, and this tray here are like general sentiment ones that are neutral colors. So I felt like there was like enough color here already. So I brought this neutral one, which is just like a little chipboard tag to layer on this text. And then I added one of the puffy stars from the Vicki Boutin collection to tie it together. And I decided that that would make a good filler card. So I switched the two filler cards. I don't even know why I did. I feel like they looked fine how they were before. But either way, I just wanted them to kind of balance on the spread. Then I'm adding a general chipboard sentiment on the bottom of this photo. Rather than having the three stacked, I felt like one longer one fit the photo better. So I'm going with that on there. And now I'm just going to go ahead and slip everything into the pockets. Sometimes I have to trim them down a little bit, especially when you're making your own cards because it's never going to be perfect. But I'm just doing that to slip them into the pockets. I really am happy with how this spread came out. I really loved my photos and I loved the feel of this spread. The collection worked really well, even though when I originally was looking at it, I wasn't sure that the travel theme really was going to fit this spread, which was more, I don't know, like a relaxing vibe than the travel collection, which was more like sightseeing and had like a lot of like cruise and that type of stuff, which just wasn't relevant, but it worked super well for this spread. And I'm super excited to maybe use more of that in my travel album as well. Here's a look at that completed spread. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Bye.